Welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and today we're visiting with Jeremy McGill. He's the Hopkins County Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources. We're going to talk about some common failures that people have with rotational grazing.
So with polywire, which is very commonly used for rotational grazing, there are metal strands mixed in with the poly. So that's where the poly wire comes from. And so a lot of folks, when they splice it, because you will have to splice it, you will never use the same reel on the same field year after year unless you label it. But you're always going to have to add wire to it or take some away to put in a gap or a new field.
Yeah, or deer run through it and it breaks, right? And you're going to have to repair it. Yeah.
Some folks think you splice polywire with wire nuts or some kind of a fancy buckle. It doesn't have to be that complicated because it is temporary fence. But one common mistake that we see is that people will simply just tie a knot in their polywire and leave it. So it doesn't matter what type of fancy knot you tie. If you stop after this step, then more than likely you'll have issues later on down the road. Because remember, we have poly material and small metal wires mixed in together. So if you think about that, as electricity is flowing through this wire, once this wire ever touches a blade of grass, which happens, then that electricity is going to try to go through the blade of grass into the ground. And the electricity can get caught up in that knot and start to arc. Now, it's not going to catch the field on fire or burn anything down with modern electric fence technology, but you can burn your poly wire in too, or you can melt it just from that heat building up. So the easy way to prevent that is tie a knot, whatever kind of knot you feel comfortable tying, and then below the knot, leave about 1 to 3/4 of an inch, and that's a little bit exaggerated, but leave about 1 to 3/4 of an inch of a tail, take a lighter or a butane torch, and simply melt the poly off of the wire. So in this case, this poly wire has 9 strands of metal mixed in. When I take a lighter, melt the poly off the wire, now I have 18 bared strands that I can twist together. Gives me a decent electrical connection and also have a good physical connection. So this will prevent it from burning in too.
Does it decrease the amount of electricity in the poly wire when you have this improper knot, or are you just concerned about making sure you're getting that good electrical current?
So it's both. So you can, anytime you tie a knot, even this knot that's properly melted and twisted, you will have some electrical resistance built in. But if you leave the knot without splicing it together, metal to metal, then you will absolutely get electrical resistance built up in this. And that can cause troubles further on down the line, especially if we're using 1,000 foot or 1,500 foot of the high conductive polywire. So there's 2 things that we're relying on with polywire. One is the psychological effect from the shock, safe, uncomfortable shock. And 2 is the visibility of it. Anywhere there's electric fence, the ground system is usually the first part of the system to be neglected. So for the animal to receive a shock, then typically, especially on a 1-strand polywire, the animal touches the fence. The pulse then contacts the animal, usually in the nose. The pulse travels down through the animal's body, through the cow's legs, back through the soil to the ground system, which is then connected back to the energizer. And it all makes one complete circuit. So only then, when the pulse makes it back to the energizer, the ground side of it, does the animal get the shock. All of that is tied together by your ground system. One rusty piece of rebar for a ground rod is like having rabbit ears for a TV antenna. Then with rabbit ears, I might be able to pick up the Bowling Green news station from where I lived. So once we started seeing satellite TV, then we could pick up a signal from all the way across the world in some cases. So a proper ground system is like having satellite TV. We can pick that signal up of that cow touching the fence, maybe across a farm that could be 1 mile long. The UK has a publication that's specifically on grounding for electric fence. One other very important component to remember on the ground system is the number of ground rods. As you add ground rods to your system, it's like walking into the realm of a satellite TV. So the recommendation, this is general, is 3 ground rods, 6 foot deep and 10 foot apart. And you'll find that in our University of Kentucky publication that's specifically on grounding. So that's just the minimum, 3 ground rods, 6 foot deep, 10 foot apart. It's okay to add more ground rods. As a matter of fact, there may be some cases where you have to have more than 3 ground rods. that publication will tell you how to test your electric fence system to see if you need to add more.
Thanks for watching the Farm and Home Show, and we hope you have a great day.